Mama's been hurting, Daddy's been down. Ain't nobody been working since the mill left town. They got 2 youngins, not 10 years old, with $200 left in his billfold. And a week's worth of groceries is the price of gold when your whole damn country's been bought and sold. Never there's been hard times, it's always made hard folks who could get her to the other side and not let it be all she wrote. I'd love to live to be an old man, but God, you can take me a young one. Just don't let the land I love die so young. Of thee I sing, I've been flying low in my troubled mind, get to digging me a hole my soul can't climb. So it's the end of the world, but nobody knows, 'cause they all just stare at the trash on their phones in a land that's littered with many men's bones who died fighting for somewhere they could call home. Whenever there's been hard times, it's always made hard folks who could get her to the other side and not let it be all she wrote. I'd love to live to be an old man, but God, you can take me a young one. Just don't let the land I love die so young. Of thee I sing,
flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
What is going on, Hive? Today is Thursday, June 26, 2025. I got Sammy T backstage. We have a really, really informative stream planned for tonight, and I'm excited for her to get up here and share all of her information and the stuff that she found on the state's new DNA experts. So I think you guys are going to like that. I am super excited to be here tonight talking with the Hive. I got Amina is in here. Smixon, that is one of my favorite usernames. Schwart, happy Thursday. Kimberly, how are you doing? 509 Sandra and her fam in the living room, all ready to go. Luna, Chantelli Lace. What's Gucci, my Louie? Sharon's tuning in from California. What's going on, Meg? Squirrel Nest. Mercedes. Doug Wilson. Not the Doug Wilson from the church, Sammy. I don't know if you can hear me backstage, but that is not the same one. Ireland's in the house. We got Danny and Donna. Catch you on the flip side. What up? Karen. Gamble, how are you doing? Man, yes. Beck, what is going on? Penny's tuning in from Idaho. Where's everybody else from? Louisiana, I just saw. I think the person from Louisiana just said it's hot as the devil's balls. I don't know why that's funny. Catherine's in the Hive down under. We got Indiana, another down under. Oklahoma, Utah, West Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina. What's up, Festive? I just saw your username. West Virginia, Florida, Chicago, Spokane, Austin, Texas, Vermont, the Midwest. Shout out to the Midwest. That is right. Florida, Canada, Arkansas, Ohio. Chrissy says no comment. Well, that is, again, always my favorite part is saying what's up to everybody, seeing where everyone's tuning in from. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bring Sammy up right away tonight. Oh, let me get us equal.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing tonight, Sammy T?
Well, I'm reading the chat, and it looks like, since we've been so busy researching for today's topic, Judge Hippler denied the alternate perps theory. He's not letting Anne use that as a defense at trial, and no delay of trial.
What?
So that's a nice Sixth Amendment fuck you. And he's going to have to go for the Daubert defense. He's going to have to go for a shoddy police investigation.
Dude, that's a big deal.
That's a
That is a
big
huge
deal. It's a big deal. It's a real big deal. It's a real, I mean, you should be allowed to defend your client. They have male DNA untested at the scene. They have a roommate who didn't even know if she was dreaming.
I'm trying to
I
hold
can't.
this.
I mean, this is it's unfucking believable. I thought it was bad when he denied the Franks hearing. This is insane. I mean, we might as well, like, I don't want to get like, but now I'm seeing the wheels in motion because I was getting, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is this state's DNA expert that they're bringing on, Dr. Christian Westring, who's a forensic person. And so I did a lot of research into him, and he has a case that was turned over basically based on the same processes that was done in the Koberger trial regarding the trace DNA and amplification. And they basically called his methodology unreliable. And so I've been trying to rack my brain with, why is the state dragging their feet when it comes to disclosing their expert CVs and what they're going to be testifying about, because you have to be a little particular. You can't just give this vague BS that they've been giving. So Ann Taylor's trying to have them drill down, and the state keeps saying, "Oh, we're not. We're or it's a process. It's a process. We'll get there." But what's going to end up happening is, because they're not meeting their disclosure needs for expert witness testimony before trial, Ann's not going to be prepared for cross-examination. And I'm afraid that Hippler isn't going to allow this information about the case that was overturned for this Dr. Christian Westring to be brought up. And I'm afraid that's going to happen.
So it's just like unidentified DNA, like you said, inconsistencies with the roommates who survived, and pretty much everything that they've said that they did, said that they saw. No forensics truly tying Brian Kohberger to the scene.
Nope.
Digital forensic gaps. His apartment and car all clean of the victim's DNA. This dude is fighting for his life. First, they had to argue if they could even point his finger at somebody else that might have done it. Now their attorneys and Kohberger's defense team spends how much time preparing for it, like you said, and they go, actually, nah.
I mean, I didn't even think this was a long shot.
That's what a way to start the stream.
I'm shocked. So they're going to have to go for a Daubert defense. They're going to have to go for
How do you
a
spell
shot.
that? What is?
I think it's Daubert. So it's like Daubert Lannan or something. I never can say it right.
I'm just trying to look up what
so
it
it's
is.
basically like, if you do shitty police work and you're going to have to you got to attack the investigation. You have to attack the investigation and how the evidence was collected, how they interviewed witnesses.
Yeah.
But this I'm guaranteeing that they didn't think this was going to be overturned. And now they don't even have more time to lean into this new sort of angle they're going to have to go with, because this got denied.
So this became a case. The Daubert standard, or the Daubert defense, became a case after the 93 U.S. Supreme Court case, Daubert versus Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals. The Daubert standard governs how scientific experiment or expert testimony is admitted in federal courts and in many state courts, including Idaho. Yes, Idaho does follow the Daubert.
Yeah.
It says judges are the gatekeepers who must ensure that scientific evidence presented to a jury is relevant, reliable, scientifically valid, not misleading or speculative. The 5 factors that they ruled on are testability, peer review, error rate, standards, and general acceptance. So basically, if the science behind an expert's testimony is weak, untested, or prone to error, it should be tossed. So I guess it's somewhat relevant to what you and I were planning on talking about.
So yeah. So we'll go into this. So
yeah. I want to get through a couple of announcements quick. Obviously, that just kind of threw a wrench in it, but a couple things quick, and then we'll get into just 2 Hive Mind finds, and then Sammy and I got a lot of really good information prep for you. I'm not even going to take credit for it. Sammy busted her ass prepping for this. So I have a hard cutoff tonight at 8:45, which is like our normal length of the streams, but I'm going to be on the Daily Dose show. It's getting released tomorrow on Spotify, so I have to go record that tonight, which is pretty cool. I met this dude through my liquor company, Birdie Bombs, and he had asked me to come be a feature on his show. And actually, he was watching the stream of Will, and that's kind of what made him reach out. So it was a last-second thing. I said, sure, I'll do it.
How cool.
And probably one of the biggest shout-outs that I want to give right now is to Jay and Bree and Harsh Reality. I
love them.
Yes, they both did a reaction video to the interview with myself, Phoenix, and Will. I thought Jay and Bree did a great job tying it back to the marshals when Will said, sometimes I wonder, did the feds get these kids killed? And that's kind of what Jay and Bree's been talking about ever since you see the Cowboys outside of the house in the white van, the white Pacifica.
I was leaning into that a lot, especially in my older channels, and was reading a lot of the things that Seagirl now is picking up on too. And yeah.
And I just think too, harsh reality, I feel like he just saw it for what it was. Like a genuine, really good 40,000 foot overview. An ex-addict, an ex-Marine coming on with nothing to gain, talking about the fact that he knows Brian and how, you know, people wonder, why does nobody speak out? Well, look at what happens even by people from the same camp that believe Brian's innocent. So
I know.
I just wanted to put that out there. I'm sure most people in the Hive saw that or heard that, but if you haven't, they both posted these earlier today, so you can go check those out.
It kind of reminds me, like, when people say, why don't they speak out? It kind of reminds me of the frat a little bit too. Like, why don't you ever hear the frat saying much?
Right. It's just, it was such, I think I said this, and I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole again. Which
Wait, did you freeze? I think
did
he
that
froze.
just go out? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
So I have that conspiracy realist side. Now I added the how to vet someone for a stream sign, which is you got to find their teenage dirt bike results. So
oh my God. When you showed me who the person who was critical about that was, I almost died.
Yeah. That and allegedly the video's gonna be coming down on her end.
Hold on, I gotta figure out how to get rid of this. Hold on, show more. How do I change this so this stops dinging? I'm trying to, I don't know. Hopefully it won't ding.
Turn it on DND.
I'm trying to figure out, hold on.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to move on to a Hive Mind Find.
Go ahead.
All right. So this time, and every now and again, I will, I'll just put an email that I received up here that's interesting. And I thought that this was a super cool email. And this person asked me to keep their name quiet. That's why the bottom half of this email is cut off. But shout out to who sent me this. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Hi, Birdie. I hope this message finds you well. Also, I just want to say how much I appreciate you and everything you're doing. Watch your videos and lives every single day. If I can't catch them live, I make sure to watch them as soon as I can. The Hive feels like home. You are truly my people, and it's been such a gift to connect with so many like-minded individuals through your community. I'd also like to share something more personal. Please don't share my name or identity. I'm trusting you with this because I feel like you'll understand. I served with the FBI for 18 and a half years. I started my career at 19. And I can say that in many ways, they broke me mentally to shape me into what they needed. While there have been some positive changes, I'm also left with a lot of emotional and mental scars. I'm not the same person I was when I began. Thank you for being a voice of reason and connection in a world that can feel isolating. What you've created means more to people like me than you probably know.
That's amazing.
18 and a half years in the feds. That's wild.
I don't know how people do that. I feel like I would just burst.
I mean, it's crazy. Just kind of reading the last sentence of this middle paragraph is like, I'm not the same person I was when I began. I mean, obviously in 18 and a half years, most people probably are not, but I kind of interpreted that as like,
well, just think about how disillusioned you must be, because even us as like people just trying to figure it out, like you think of like, you know, I'm the 9/11 generation from high school. So we were all like, rah, rah, the axis of evil and ooh, weapons of mass destruction. And then we watch all of our friends like sign up for this pointless ass war. Nobody comes home better. Our country's worse for it. We're still taking our shoes off to get on a fucking airplane. And it's like, the disillusionment just from experiencing that as a citizen in the world. Imagine actually going to work for the government or like, you know, serving overseas. Imagine how disillusioned you must be. And dude, just how like, I would feel the same way. I'm not the same person. None of us are, but you're really not the same person when you're at that level.
my wife's father-in-law was like, he was one of 14 to live on his last mission in the Middle East. He's part of MARSOC. And like, you talk about like, obviously I didn't know him then, but it's just interesting, like how Mrs. Birdie or like her mom describes him, and just like the dude moved up to the middle of the woods and just like reads books and just is raising his family now. And he used to be like a super outgoing social dude.
I mean, look at the Unabomber.
Yeah.
You know,
Now-
Ted Kaczynski, I read that manifesto sometimes, and there's not that much I disagree with.
I agree. I mean, yes, there is a lot of accuracies.
When he talks about it, it's like, I go, if he just didn't send bombs in the mail, I mean, it's pretty prophetic.
Oh, I meant to say, not my wife's father-in-law. Shit, my father-in-law. Did I say that?
Yeah.
My bad. Nope. Sorry, my wife's father, my father-in-law. All right, moving on. This was brought up at the end of last night's stream where someone was like, I think I just caught a UFO, and I picked this Hive Mind find because it has to do with the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day with just wild shit that's been going on in the sky. I kind of circled it. It might be hard to see because it flashes so quick, but I was able to pause it, and it's right here. But I'll go ahead and play this quick. It happens kind of right towards the beginning. You're going to want to look up here.
Whoa. What the fuck?
Did I miss it? Hang on. Right there.
What is that?
I don't know. Looks like a demon spirit flying.
I get so creeped out when people show those on, like, when they're on a plane and they see him like next to them. I'm like, holy crap.
Right?
I'd be like, where's my rosary?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that could be, but if you guys have cool UFO videos, I geek out over those. So I think probably I'm the kind of person that's like, I want them to be real. You know, like I want
them to be real and not our government just pulling the wool over our eyes so they could like plan the next reason why we're in our house for a year.
Exactly. All right, let's get into what we were planning on talking about and how it does kind of go with the
so this is what they're going to have to do now.
Yeah. So it's relevant. It is relevant. So if you want to kind of go through it, Sammy, obviously you went really deep on that. I'll just kind of chime in with questions, or if I'll start putting questions up on the screen too for you.
Okay. So this is talking about this doctor. His name is Dr. Westring. Dr. Christian Westring is the person that the state wants to be an expert witness regarding forensics. And Kohberger's attorneys are saying that they haven't been given the disclosure that they need regarding expert witnesses. They're saying the defense has filed motions to exclude or limit the testimony of certain experts based on these disclosure issues. They have requested sanctions against the prosecution for noncompliance with the disclosure rules, and the prosecution's response has been that they've argued they have complied with all of the discovery obligations and that their disclosures are sufficient, but they also maintain that the discovery is an ongoing, continuous process, not a one-time event. How nice for them. I guess they get to do whatever the hell they want. Now, the case that Dr. Westring was involved with is called the Turney case. It involved DNA analysis conducted by NMS Labs, where scientists, including Dr. Westring, who was the lead technical expert in this case, and Philip Danielson, performed an independent analysis of the DNA profile. The court in the Turney case ultimately found that NMS results to be incomprehensible, uninformative, and misleading. They determined that that lab had ignored its own validation data and rejected the DNA results.
That's
Texas
crazy.
Forensic, I know, they launched an investigation into NMS and agreed with the court's conclusions. So the Texas Forensic Science Commission from this case launched their own investigation into the lab and agreed with the court's conclusions, finding that an excessive amount of template DNA was amplified. Now, why does that sound so familiar? It's because what little we know of what the FBI did with that egregious trace amount of DNA that they said they pulled from the sheath that was so degraded that they couldn't get it from Othram, that Othram produced a result that showed something about 4 brothers, nothing about Brian Kohberger. Then what little information that Ann Taylor has, what we do know is that it involves amplification of DNA. And what this court found was that that process that they did was completely uninformative, incomprehensible, and misleading. The Texas Forensic Science Commission indicated that while NMS analysts followed their standard operating procedure, the final data was unreliable. The conclusions drawn for it were therefore also unreliable. This is what they did. They challenged the encountered in DNA analysis when an excessive amount of template DNA is used in the amplification of the PCR process, particularly in the context of forensic DNA profiling using capillary, I can't even say that word, and gene mapper software.
Which
okay, guys?
is that the I just had it pulled up. Is that like the STR mix, like the genotyping?
Yeah, this is so over amplification and CCD saturation. When too much DNA is amplified, the resulting signal from the fluorescently labeled DNA fragments during CE can be excessively strong, leading to the saturation of the instrument's CCD camera. So basically, it was off the scale. They couldn't duplicate what they did again, kind of like in this case, because what happened in this case when Ann Taylor asked for that degraded sample back so she could duplicate the test or run her own set of tests, they said it was too degraded.
Guess how many cases that has been used in worldwide?
I don't know.
Dude, it's just guess.
I don't know. I don't want to guess.
So worldwide cases over 500,000.
What?
STR mix was used in 5. So again, I don't know if it's the exact same one.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. The question that I had up on the screen, was it Allie had asked how many other cases have been convicted using this amplified DNA quietly in an hour in jail. In the US, it's confirmed in over 1,000. Most of it's not in the US, but I mean, you start talking about the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, where those are the top 3.
That's crazy.
I wonder if it's just like most judges don't understand, or
yes,
judges and jurors, they don't understand.
Well, the point though is when like the Daubert hearings and the Daubert standard, what you should be able to do as a defense attorney is be allowed to bring up this overturned appellate. It's very hard to win an appeal. And they won an appeal based solely on this, okay? And the verdict was overturned because they said it was unreliable. It was not good. And so I'm like waiting for Hippler to say, you can't bring up this case to the jury, because what they need to do now is attack their experts' credibility because they don't have an alternate perpetrator defense. So what are they going to do? They have to attack these experts. They have to attack the investigation. And the reason why they're not disclosing, and now I know why they've been so effing vague in these disclosures and dragging their feet and giving these boilerplate language responses to Ann Taylor, is because of this. Because I'm just waiting for him to just give the big FU to the 6th Amendment and say, sorry, I don't think it's fair that you bring up this case because this specific case doesn't really, it's a little bit different. So we don't want to prejudice the expert. I mean, that's like what I'm ready for him to say.
Can we, because where my brain goes when you're saying that is I'm trying to think of like, okay, well, what is like the contrarian thinker say about that? Is it possible that this actually is a better defense for Brian having to use this? Now, that sounds crazy because it's like what we just talked about. There's different DNA. There's no DNA for Brian. You know, there's gaps in like his cell phone data and all that stuff. But if we were to think just on the other side for a second, like a chess move, not that Anne and the judge are in cahoots. That's not what I'm trying to say. But like, is this actually legally maybe a more explosive defense when it works?
Well, this is what I'm going to tell you. Hold on. I'm going to try to like get rid of this chat. Like, I don't know how to make
Yeah,
this.
why is that doing that?
I
every
don't know.
time?
I turned my phone on airplane mode. So I'm like, why am I still getting texts? I'm just going to block. I'm going to leave the conversation. Does that work? It's a group text.
Yeah.
Okay. If I leave the conversation, will that work? Okay, good.
So
All right.
I'm hoping that that is what it is. And I see a couple of people in the chat saying the same thing. Because if you can
here's what it is.
discredit it
If
all.
you want to win on this, though, you're going to need a Bob Alessi. This is what Karen Reed had at her trial. She had attorney Bob Alessi, who is a maverick, a gem, who is an expert. He was first went to pharmacy school. Then he studied all this law. He teaches. He gets up at 4 a.m. every day. He reads all these books. He knows his experts better than the experts who are testifying. He's just amazing. The problem with cross-examining experts is they have an advantage because they can dazzle you with language that you don't understand. It's hard to grasp material this scientific, this intricate and complicated. And you need somebody on that team that's going to have a scientific mind that specializes in cross-examination of scientific experts in this field of forensics. You're going to need to hire an attorney. I don't know if we could crowdfund for this like Karen Reed did. That's how she got some of her attorneys, but I doubt it. You're going to need somebody that's going to be able to cross-examine an expert witness better and trap them and make them look stupid. Because the other thing is if they have a great expert, the jury's understanding of any of this, a lot of times, even if one thing most of us can see makes more sense than the other side's expert, they kind of cancel each other out. So say they have Bika Barlow, right, for their expert. And this guy is Dr. Christian Westring. Now, all goes according to plan. Hitler allows them to bring up this reversible error that happened in the appeals court that overturned the verdict. Let's say Hitler allows them to bring this up and question the expert on what happened in this case, okay? And so that'll put him in the negative a little bit with the jury because you're bringing up somebody who's testifying on something that had their science overturned. That doesn't sound real good. So you're starting in the negative. So now you're going to have to build up your credibility with direct examination. And then the cross-examination is going to have to be harsh. It's going to have to discredit him. But a lot of times, juries don't get the ins and outs so much with the science. So they kind of cancel each other out. Unless one is just that much more stellar.
Yeah. Well, and so what I don't understand is you, me, everybody in the Hive, tens of thousands of other people, whether they're putting it on hundreds of thousands of other people, whether they're putting it on social media or not. How are we able to see this through redacted and sealed documents? And how, like, I'm actually wondering at this point, like, I know the fix is in, as people want to say, but I'm like, they have to almost understand too. It's not just obvious to them. This is like on its face, blatantly obvious. And it's insane. There's not a bigger public outcry, guys. I feel like it's insane.
I'm telling you, if he was a woman, there'd be a public outcry.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, look
He's
at what
a white
happened to
guy
Will
in Idaho.
And look at what happened to Will after the stream. For God's sakes, Will, it's not like you got to put Will at the crime of the scene, knowing Koberger and that, like, he's an acquaintance, somebody from his past that's just like, yeah, I had knew of Brian. I was buddies with him. Here's what I thought of him. That guy can't even come out and talk. There's nobody locally, he was saying. The family won't want to talk. We know why for them, but like there's no outcry for this.
Which is really sad because there needs to be. And I think that our cheerleading, Pav, you, me, the Hive, everybody, I mean, this is all we can do. I guess we could try. I know you have we have a following. I would try to touch base with Turtle Boy. Now that the Karen Reed case is over with, we should contact Turtle Boy.
Let's do it. Hive.
Let's
That's
do
the
it.
next assignment. Why not us, right?
Get Turtle Boy involved.
I
Is
would
what
say-
I'm saying. We need him to do what he did for Karen Reed, for Brian Koberger, because this is fucked up.
And I would say we have a pretty good selling point of people that aren't going to come at each other's throats. And that's like, oh, we're all the nice guys over here. No, like we're all looking for the same truth. It's not who gets to the truth faster. It's not who got to the truth in a better, more efficient way. It's like, I don't know about you guys. I don't care if somebody like breaks something before me. Like I feel like there's people that are like, they want to have the scoop. And that's fine. You can be motivated by that. I understand that's motivating, but
you know what you need to do? You need to contact and email the attorney, Andrea Burkhardt. I'll give you her contact information because I know she reads people's stuff. She has a direct line to Turtle Boy. She's one of my favorite legal minds on YouTube, Andrea Burkhardt. She did the whole Karen Reed case. She's done all the Idaho hearings she covers, and she thinks that this is corrupt too. So I think if we reach out to her to help reach out to Turtle Boy, or we try directly, but we need more influential eyes on this, because this is the next Karen Reed, guys. This is the next Karen Reed in Idaho. And I'm dead ass serious.
Dude, there needs to be that kind of movement. There needs to be a bigger movement.
We should listen to the lawyer, because I cut these clips for Birdie. This person came on the lawyer, his name is Michael Easter. He worked in the FBI, and this guy actually worked on the Idaho case for a bit. He said he can't get into the details about what he did for the Idaho case, but he was working with the FBI in the Idaho case for a little while. But when he's discussing the Karen Reed evidence that, by the way, Judge Bev prevented him from testifying about, he wasn't allowed to trial. He was denied. His expert testimony got denied in this corrupt ass town. But he goes into what he was going to talk about. And when I was listening to him, I started sending Birdie these clips because I said, this so applies to the Idaho 4, and I'm going to say why and how, but we'll just listen for ourselves.
Does it matter what order I play? I think so. These might be in order, but okay, I'll start playing them. These clips range from like a little bit under a minute to about 3.5 minutes.
All the gadgets in their life work is really important. So, but I really
people,
especially with, so two things I'll tell you just that are interesting. I would love your take on the bump in the Adelson case that the feds did to try to get everybody back involved, which is exactly what you were talking about earlier. Like
that's really, I'd love to look at that. It's really cool. It's a sensitive technique because you really got to make sure you're not re-engaging or entrapping somebody. We sort of like think of it as tickling the case. Like we just get people going again. What's going on here? Let's do a bump. I think I don't want to keep you. I know your story goes short. I think I was gonna mention the God, I totally forgot. I got so excited about your bump comment.
The demonstratives and YNW Melly. That's a really interesting. I want your take on. Well, think about it. I'll answer a couple questions while you're thinking about it. Because I'm gonna hang on and answer a few questions here. Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about with the culture and from the top down, and that's not a surprise.
Maybe that's the problem.
Exactly. Peter, you need to do a video on the deposition of the Honor Your Oath that's going around. It's classic. I have not seen that. So if somebody wants to send that to me, I will take a look at it. How about finding out who owned the Ford Edge seen there at the area where John O'Keefe was found that morning?
That's possible. Do you want me to discuss any of that?
Sure, go for it.
Well, so it goes back to the SIM module. Is we can do a tower dump from AT&T, and we would have seen all SIM cards available in that area, or IMSIs, and we would also see the access point name, which would have identified it as a vehicle. And so, if that Ford Edge had a SIM card in it, we would have uncovered a Ford Edge, and we could have then traced back to its VIN and its VIN number to its registered owner.
Oh.
And even if you would have thought Lucky Laughlin was not a credible witness.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, you guys already know what I'm about to do. Brian Koberger's do Hyundai Elantras come equipped with a SIM card in it that AT&T could track? If so,
in a
what
tower dump?
Yeah, what years or what year did it start? I got an email one time too. This is random in the Hive Mind Finds. It just said, "I can appreciate that you know how to type right." Like,
yes, it does.
Wow.
Yes, it does. Boom.
Hyundai does include a factory installed SIM cards, Blue Link. It first appeared in a 2012, but by 2013 and 14, it's pretty much in every other Hyundai
including
model,
the
including
Elantra. Well, now, an FBI agent said we could do that. In fact, this FBI agent, I think, should contact Dan Taylor immediately and say, hey, where's Brian Koberger's Hyundai Elantra SIM card?
So they use this. The reason why they're in the cars, it says remote access, stolen vehicle recovery, SOS. It's not supposed to be used for tower dumps.
Oh, but do you think they abide by that?
I
think the FBI follows every single rule and guideline they've ever made for themselves.
They didn't even follow their own guidelines for the stuff. Oh, I was going to say, like, they didn't even follow their own guidelines, the DOJ policy for the genetic genealogy.
This actually recommends that you need to inspect your vehicle in the glove box or under the dash. If you find a box that says IMEI FCC label, if you find an Icon AN33 like device, contact your dealer or remove it.
You know what I bet they did? Just like in the Karen Reed case, they ruined her Lexus like black box, so they couldn't recover any data off of it.
Christ. Let's finish. There's like 10 seconds of this clip.
Yeah, that
we would also see the access point name, which would have identified it as a vehicle. And so if that Ford Edge had a SIM card in it, we would have uncovered a Ford Edge, and we could have then traced back to its VIN and its VIN number to its registered owner.
And even if you would have thought Lucky Laughlin was not a credible witness, this would have been something pretty easy to take a look at. And again, eliminate people in the house who have been victimized, and they say they've been intimidated. Like, you could have been eliminated as a suspect pretty easily if you would have let them take a look at all the Ford Edges you had or the vehicles that you had to show exactly where they were.
I wonder if a 2014 Nissan Altima or whatever, right? That's what it was.
What are the roommates' cars and their boyfriends' makes and models, or all the people that were at the party with, you know what I'm saying? If you could do this for Brian's car, and they, like, let's say before December 19th, were they doing this? Because this guy said it's pretty standard and pretty easy. So where is this for every fucking vehicle?
Exactly. Well, I think it is pretty regular because the DoorDash driver, Molly, right, allegedly has a white
Subaru.
2014. Oh, I thought it was a Nissan Altima.
Oh, I don't know. I thought the one she was pulled over with, where she said she's friends with Bill Thompson.
Yeah,
that was a Subaru.
Chat. Do you guys know what I'm talking to? Like in that Let's see. I could have swore I seen a document.
Squirrel Nest says yes, Sammy. It's a Subaru.
In that video.
Oh yeah, in that video.
Yeah.
I don't know how many.
I thought I saw one for either way. I would guess. Let's say this. What year did this become the standard for the majority of popular brands?
Oh.
Pretty. I mean, 2012.
Pretty early.
Yeah, pretty. I mean,
it's 10 years ago from when this happened.
Right.
I mean, how many people? Again,
crazy.
Where is this? Before Brian Kohlberger, where is this? You got a cast Vizlog that they can't remake because, whoops, we didn't save the settings. What else is there? What else did you do besides not get DNA, not put it into CODIS? I mean, what else did you do? Why didn't you do this? This guy said that's like standard and easy. So sick of this.
It is. It's hard. It's super hard.
When you're hearing an FBI investigator say that this is standard and easy and what you would do to simply cancel people out or put people in the suspect box based on the location of their vehicle. And it's just bing, bang, boom. We could just do this like nothing if they have a SIM card. I'm so pissed.
It's like a human factor, Sammy, is what I think it really is. I think it's afraid of the media machine attacking you and your career. And if you look at the Karen Reed versus Brian Kohlberger, you go do it for Karen Reed, you're a hero. You go do the same exact thing for Brian Kohlberger, your career's effed.
I mean, people do like troll free Karen readers, but they're all like, I don't know. They seem like just miserable people. Like, I swear to God, that Jennifer Coffindaffer woman, okay? The more she talks about hating Karen Reed and how her and Nancy Grace, I have noticed the more they talk about these cases and stump for like wanting these people dead or in prison, they become like such hobgoblins. Like their appearance is like physically morphing into a hobgoblin. I swear to God.
I feel that way about like certain politicians too, that you just see through the course of their career, that it's like you can tell they're just saying or doing what they need to for re-election. And it's like you just see them just slowly. Like I feel like there's got to be like some science behind that. Like if you're doing something you hate every day, can you really look your best just due to like how miserable you are? Like, are you going to start looking as miserable as you feel?
Well, I feel like you get, I don't know, but almost like when you're speaking the truth or you're trying to get justice that you know is right, I think it illuminates your soul. It gives you a purpose. But when you're purposefully trying to bury the truth or mask the truth, it's like it just sucks the beauty out of you. Look at the insane person that Nancy Grace, not that she was ever like, Miss America, but Jesus Christ, she is frightening to look at. And Jennifer Coffindaffer, I'm like looking at her on court TV and I'm like, Jesus, you look like a goddamn thing in a J.R. Tolkien book. Like, what is that?
See, I don't even need to know what a J.R. Tolkien book is. I really don't. But I can know what it means. And I appreciate that about you. And I can picture it. And it's not good.
I think he wrote The Hobbit. Am I right?
Oh, Tolkien? Did they write The Hobbit?
Am I getting that wrong?
No, you're probably right. You're probably right.
I haven't read it since like 5th grade. So sorry. I'm going to be 39 soon. It's been a while since I made a Hobbit reference.
Right. I'm going to play this bottom left one. I tried to get these in order. I don't know if I did, but.
Okay.
I wouldn't point to an exact event, but instead a theme, which was the premature categorization of her as your sole suspect and never considering any alternate theory. I think it was detrimental. They never recovered from it.
Boom! He said, did you have a chance to look at Karen's phone data? He's not going to answer that one. Anything that has to do with the actual client on the case he was working at, we'll stay away from that. Based on your experience, will the feds rely on Cellbrite trial findings or conduct their own when it comes to the 227 search on Jam's phone. What did you think about the way that the Commonwealth, I don't know, belittle is not the right, discredited the Celebrate report and just basically said it's completely wrong?
Yeah, I mean, maybe to steal a comment from the trial, they used it as both a sword and a shield, right? I mean, they used it when it benefited them and then poo-pooed it when it doesn't. It's never great when you're trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I definitely agree that it does make you think, right? And it goes back to, Peter, like what I talked about before, is why do we have conflicting times? And I think they tried to address it, but I don't think they addressed it completely how I would have done it. I would have liked to have gotten McCabe's cell site records. And so then I could have seen her data session logs, and I could have said, well, she wasn't even using data between these times, so it was most likely that data session occurred at 6. Or I also would have liked to have seen, where was she when these things took place? Was she at home sitting in her bed? Well, maybe it's not as reasonable that she would have conducted a search for how long to die in the cold. If instead she made that search at or near 34 Fairview, it would make more contextual sense. So I would have liked to put it in that to give it some, the search to give some context of location. Where was she when she made these searches? At 227, she said, what? I was looking at Hoffamak or something. I don't recall. Yeah. Okay. Well, was she really at home when this was happening? Yes. We have her cell site records that show she's at home. Right. So, and then at 6, or the next time, I think it was like 6:04, 6:06. I can't remember this precise time, but where was she? We know on video camera she is, but I would have then correlated that with the cell phone records. And again, the data analysis, I think I would have done to show when was data usage occurring on her phone.
And that's
what I want from the goddamn roommates. That's what I want from the goddamn roommates. Where is this? Where is this?
Like, you can't tell me.
By the way, tell me how good are these clips applying to this case?
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, there's
incredible.
Yeah. I actually find it hard to believe that Ann Taylor wouldn't know about this. I find it hard to believe that somebody on her team, somebody who is in this line of work, wouldn't bring this forward, wouldn't ask for it. I can't wrap my head around it.
Again, it's your team of attorneys. If they're overwhelmed responding to motions, having to deal with mitigation efforts thanks to leaks that aren't even your fault, that now you're not even getting a continuance over this, which the judge already said there's possible constitutional violations of his rights when it comes to this. And he's willing to just plow forward, no third-party defense. And, oh, by the way, these expert disclosures, we're going to leave them vague. No sanctions for you, prosecution. I'm so disgusted. And Phoenix said, house long. Wait, what did she say? House
long till we get the truth. I've seen a couple of those.
House long till we get the truth. Yeah. I want to start making shirts. House long till we get the truth. That's your next merch, Birdie.
Yeah, I'm writing that down.
Hashtag Idaho 4. House long till we get the truth. Hashtag Idaho 4. Let's ship a t-shirt to Turtle Boy to wear on a live and give him all of this. Let's give him everything. I don't even care if we get an ounce of credit. This is BS.
House long till the roommates tell the truth. Like, there's one more clip of this guy, and then the judge one is super interesting that you sent at the next slide.
Oh, yeah.
You're a real gem. If you can make talking about this cell phone data interesting and exciting on a YouTube video, because those are the days that when I'm listening while I'm working, I'm like, oh, what did they even say? What did they? The only way I can do it, honestly, is with the maps. The maps are the only way I can really follow it, but then it's hard for me to work at the same time. I've got to focus in and look at these maps going through. But those are 3 cases I'd love your take on eventually if you'd come back.
Yeah, and if you give me a minute, I'll give you 3 responses. One, I think, yes, I totally agree with you, is that one of the things we teach is try to be interesting when you're talking about cell phone
Mhm.
records, because it's not that exciting. And so I try to sound excited about it, even though I've done it hundreds of times. And I think what really makes it interesting for people is make it relatable to their own life. And for example, ladies and gentlemen, when you're doing this, you would have recorded this in your phone records, and then I would have seen this, and this is why I'm trying to explain to you as it relates to the defendant. So I think a good demonstrative, and if you want to see something like that in one of these trials, I would be able to look at how they're presented it, and I would probably be able to create a separate demonstrative for your audience of, okay, their demonstrative wasn't bad. What if it looked like this? What could we have seen, right? And I could probably pick that up by just watching on the screen. Second would be, yeah, I'll look into them. If you want to have me back on some of those, I'd be happy to do so. But I'd like to leave your audience with something a little interesting just to think about before they leave, is that in my world, and in this world specifically of phone records or mobile device records, is that people's vehicles these days, and even certain Lexuses, have SIM cards in them. And those SIM cards have phone records. And one of the things that I pointed out in my analysis is that no one ever obtained Karen Reed's Lexus vehicle cellular SIM module. And we would have seen cell phone records from her vehicle. And I think you're going to see some of these things from cases as we move forward of what did the SIM card from the vehicle, which is that SIM card's being used to send data sessions and reports of diagnostics back to Lexus, Toyota, Ford, Mercedes. So they get to see what's happening in your car from their perspective, so they can send, things out of recalls and whatnot. But I've solved a very important homicide case, quadruple homicide, with a SIM card from a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the type of stuff where,
wait, hang on.
I always assume big.
Was he giving like a little was that like a little Easter egg about Idaho 4?
I thought that when he
Hang
said
on.
that.
Let's
I
listen to
thought
that
the
again.
same
Lexus,
thing.
Toyota, Ford, Mercedes. So they get to see what's happening in your car from their perspective, so they can send, things out of recalls and whatnot. But I've solved a very important homicide case, quadruple homicide, with a SIM card from a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the type of stuff where,
how does that guy interviewing him not question what case?
I don't know.
Wait, how do you just let that go? Just go, yeah.
Maybe there's another quadruple homicide we don't know about, but damn. That was wild. I kind of missed that.
And with a SIM card with a car. What, like, hello?
Well, again, so even if his phone is off, so this is another thing that makes me mad, is that the prosecution is using the absence of data as the reason for the homicides. So because we don't have cell phone information, we can reasonably conclude this is when Brian Kohberger went to Kings Road and hacked 4 people to death. That's not okay. That is an absence of data doesn't mean it's conclusory of anything. What you need is this. You need this. You need this SIM card showing, because just because his phone is turned off doesn't mean his goddamn car's turned off. So you need them to get that SIM card or whatever the Hyundai Elantra has, get it and see, did it go in reverse? Did it go in drive? Where was it going? How was it going? And the SIM card connects with the phone and the Bluetooth and the whole thing. So even if the phone's off, it's still sending signals somewhere, I believe.
And in my head,
the SIM card is, obviously.
Yeah. In my head, it went to like Apple CarPlay. That's what I started thinking. Or like if you, or if you're I don't know.
And also too, like, didn't they say, remember, they're like, oh, he connected to their Wi-Fi, which is another bunch of BS.
Yeah.
Who connected to their Wi-Fi in that area? I want the SIM cards of everybody at Linda Lane driving around from those times that we hear all those noises. I want those SIM cards, those cell phone records, and I want to see if any of them pinged or got off their Wi-Fi, like, hooked up to it.
Can I just like give a hot take here? I'm just going to say it. I don't think that this case should have been hard to solve.
I'm agreeing with you. Now that you hear this, especially, I'm like shocked at how little in the beginning, up until Brian Kohberger was arrested, it was like a black hole. We got One clue for the public. Keep on alert for a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Oops, it's a 2015 and it's this guy. Bye, case solved. See you later. Have a nice day. Everybody pack their ball and go home.
I don't believe anything that we're told about this case, and I don't believe that this case again should have been hard to solve. That we're hearing this, I mean, even before this, but just come on. How didn't this guy works for the goddamn FBI? He knows. He knows. I want to go back again those 10 seconds and then I'll let it play through, but
word of what did the SIM card from the vehicle, which is that SIM card's being used to send data sessions and reports of diagnostics back to Lexus, Toyota, Ford, Mercedes. So they get to see what's happening in your car from their perspective, so they can send, things out of recalls and whatnot. But I've solved a very important homicide case, quadruple homicide, with a SIM card from a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the type of stuff where, I always assume Big Brother's watching. I assume Michael Easter is reading all of my Facebook messages and text messages on my phone, but it's like, we don't even know how all this stuff works. I want my phone to connect to my car when I go in and all my text messages pop up and me to be able to say, call Mike Easter as I'm driving, but that can all be tracked. And it is the new age and how people are getting caught and how law enforcement is catching the bad guy. And I'm all for that. But, having to explain how it all works and people understanding, how they're all the gadgets in their life work is really important. So, but I really think especially with, so two things I'll tell you just that are interesting. I would love your take on the bump in the Adelson case.
So we watched that already. Okay.
But I really think too, when they said it goes all back to the diagnostics and everything goes back to the dealership, why haven't we gotten a subpoena to Hyundai? Like, Ann Taylor, wake up. Are you listening?
This is just insane. So now this is Judge Carol Erskine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell her background quick, if you know it?
So she worked in like one of the larger urban counties. I forgot which one. I think it starts with a W. I forgot. I'm sorry. But she's basically commenting on some of Judge Canoni's rulings in the Karen Reed case and how it's a violation of her rights, her Sixth Amendment rights specifically. And the way she's describing why she thinks it's a violation, I think, is really compelling and also can be similar to what we're experiencing currently with Judge Hippler, as today he just denied an alternate perpetrator theory and denied a continuance, even though he found the prosecution was in violation of the goddamn gag order. But let's go.
And Phoenix said that they were named alt perps. Like, that's crazy.
That is fucking
obviously
crazy.
They have to be named, but I'm just saying, like, you're gonna look at this named. I just can't. I can't.
Has a right to call witnesses and who had a right to what the Sixth Amendment says of compulsory process, meaning that every defendant under the Sixth Amendment has a right to call witnesses and confront witnesses and elicit favorable testimony. And, I think as many people know, the Sixth Amendment is actually a prohibition on the government. It just tells the government, you cannot stop someone from calling witnesses. You cannot stop someone from eliciting positive testimony. You cannot stop someone from confronting witnesses.
Did you want me to pause it, or were you saying 1 minute?
I want you to pause it, because this is what really grinds my gears. When I heard that, the first thing I thought of was Brian Kohberger, and now after he's denying this alternate perpetrator theory, do you hear this judge? Do you hear what she's saying, guys? Hive?
Yeah.
This is a Sixth Amendment violation, and he's facing the death penalty. He's facing capital murder charges in a quadruple homicide, and this judge won't let him put on a defense and confront the witnesses. And the worst part about this, in my opinion, is that they probably presented, we can't see, because of all this sealing, we can't see what the defense even presented to the judge that made him deny this. So we can't even, as a public, see what they have. It's so enraging.
It makes me want. It's just so bad. It's so bad. It's like hard to even.
Oh, and by the way, it was a jury's decision, in my opinion, to decide if those roommates were victims or not. That's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that away.
Took
that away. And he already painted the roommates as victims. That was a fact that the jury should have found out and decided by themselves, based on the text messages, based on the phone data, based on all of what we just heard from Mike Easter that we still have yet to get. If Ann Taylor can still get it, probably not, because the deadlines have gone and passed. And I guess only the state's allowed to violate those with no problem.
It's crazy. Was that? Oh, there's more to this clip. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's what the framers intended 200 years ago. And it rose out of the fact that when those in America were still under British rule, they were absolutely not allowed to call witnesses. They weren't allowed to put on a defense. And so that's the historical perspective of it. But it's ever present every single day in a courtroom. Every single day you're thinking about this. Am I being fair? As you said, you have lawyers, just presenting evidence on both sides, and you're listening to it. And ultimately, someone's not going to be happy with your decision. If I was hearing a motion to suppress on a criminal case over Miranda issues, and I decided to suppress it, well, the prosecutor wasn't going to be happy. If I decided I wasn't going to suppress it, then the defense attorney. So, you go into it understanding very clearly that there are always going to be people, lawyers or other people, that aren't going to be happy with what you decide, but you make the decision based on how you're viewing the evidence, and always with this underlying view, especially in criminal cases, that there's only one person, as there was in the Reed case. That one person is Karen Reed. It's not the judge, it's not the prosecutor, it's not the defense attorneys, it's not the journalists or anybody watching. There's only one person that had that Sixth Amendment right. And so when there were times that it seemed to people that there was an uneven playing field, what plays into that is the fact that she's the person whose rights supersede everyone else's rights. And so, as you heard at times, Hank Brennan would say, we want a fair trial too, and the Commonwealth's entitled to a fair trial. That may be so, but what they don't have the same entitlement that Karen Reed had, related to her Sixth Amendment rights. And so those were the things I was concentrating on as it right to call.
Yeah, I'm concentrating on it too. You know what we should do is sell swag with like Hitler dressed like a British monarch, like a king.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just call it
awesome.
King Hitler. Down with King Hitler, off with his head.
Yeah. Jesus.
Down with King Hitler, off with his head. Put in like a guillotine. Just like
have it like drawn in like the old school books where like it's like half stick figures, half like just like one color for everything.
Like when you were a kid and you stick your head in those at like an amusement park and supposedly like that. I mean, how stupid is that? And you know how many pictures at like Darien Lake and like Cedar Point I have? Like, so cool. It's like, why is that?
I don't
know.
Why
is that fascinating? Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Moms thought it was a good idea. This woman has a voice that I'm like, I like kind of reminds me of like my grandma, but I feel like she's like so soft spoken where I'm like, I would literally just like sit in a room and just listen. Like, I feel like she could talk with such facts that it's so entertaining.
Well, what she's saying is so crucial. And I have an issue where I can't regulate my emotions when I'm passionate about something. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I have a problem with that. So sorry. I'm just like, I just get so riled up when I'm hearing this stuff that it just like, but I need to be more like this where, I sound like I took some Valium, and I want to talk about how important the Sixth Amendment is. It primarily guarantees the right to a speedy trial and public trial by an impartial jury, among other rights.
That was like a combination of like a grandma, and I kind of heard a little Trump voice in there. I don't know why, but all right,
It's very
on to the
good.
next one.
in those cases.
Oops.
In those cases, and having to do with impeaching those witnesses. In other words, calling attention to the credentials of that person. So Jessica Hyde's going to testify. She's going to testify about phone data, and the person with the Sixth Amendment rights is, through her lawyers, is wanting to cross-examine her about the fact that she was declared to be unreliable related to testimony around the phone. And so I don't think there could be anything more relevant. So just to step back in terms of how you hear witnesses, and I've heard hundreds of expert witnesses, especially in child abuse cases. Was there sexual abuse? What's on the x-ray? Are these fractures? Are they not fractures? You know, it all starts with the basics. You know, what's your name? Where did you go to school? Do you have a bachelor's degree? Do you have a medical degree? Do you have certifications? They turn their CV into the court. And have you ever testified in another court before? Which wasn't really highly relevant to me, because there's always a first time that someone's going to testify. Right. But in the case of Jessica Hyde, they wanted to impeach her credentials and her reliability based on the fact that she had been determined just months earlier in Maryland regarding a phone case, determined by a judge that she was that her testimony was unreliable.
Boom. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to Dr. Christian. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Dr. Christian Westring, everybody. Dr. Christian Westring, who in 2014 had a verdict overturned because his methodology was deemed unreliable by the Appellate Division, and Texas Commission of Scientists decided that that was wholehearted bullshit. And so they did an investigation into 1,500 cases that his employer dealt with, called NMS, and it's called the Turney case, if anybody wants to go Google and research that for themselves. And if Judge Hippler doesn't allow it, I'm losing my Valium voice. If Judge Hippler doesn't allow this, if he doesn't allow this, just like they did in the Karen Reed, I swear to God, off with his head.
Oh, to the guillotine. Yes.
To the guillotine.
King Hippler.
Important person and right in every criminal courtroom is the Sixth Amendment right of the criminal defendant, not the prosecutors, not the witnesses, not the judge, not the public. All of those things are important and can come into play. And when judges make analysis or do their analysis, but especially when we've seen some high profile cases, like, I don't know if you know about the Koberger case in Idaho, there were a lot of motions filed by all of the media companies, and we want cameras in the courtroom, and the judges balancing things, and all of that is really important, but all of it is second to making sure the defendant gets a fair trial, that Sixth Amendment right being so important. So with that in mind, and that's what kind of got you interested in this case.
Boom! With the Sixth Amendment being the most important. Did everybody hear that loud and clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the challenges, by the way, that Ann Taylor was bringing regarding his Sixth Amendment right was the grand jury indictment in general. So the whole reason why he was arrested, the defense argued on the standard of proof. That Koberger's defense argued the grand jury should have been instructed to find evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, the same standard as a trial jury, instead of a lower standard of probable cause used in Idaho grand jury proceedings. The outcome, the judge dismissed the argument, stating that the grand jury's function is to screen for probable cause, not to determine guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which is reserved for the trial jury. But now the trial jury is going to get some Cliff Note version of what the defense can put on, and they're going to just let the prosecution, I guess, hamstring them at every turn. So that's lovely. the allegations of a biased grand jury. The defense also sought to have the indictment dismissed based on the assertion that the grand jury was biased. That was denied. The insufficient or admissible evidence before the grand jury. The defense challenged the indictment by arguing that the evidence presented to the grand jury was insufficient or inadmissible. The judge ruled that was not cool. So they also said, obviously, that a lot of the evidence that ended up in the grand jury, like the probable cause affidavit, is no longer true. Those facts are no longer facts. And he said that law enforcement had reasonable, they thought when they were writing that probable cause affidavit, even though they, didn't include a ton of facts. And of course, the defense counsel isn't allowed in a grand jury. It's just the state presenting the case. Nobody's cross-examining, guys. So they said, well, these facts are no longer facts. So why can't we challenge the evidence? And the judge said no to the Franks hearing. So here we are.
And I think Lenny just nailed it, like pretty much summing it up. That's called getting railroaded. That's what that is.
Yes, that is. We're driving the railroad right off the tracks. Choo-choo.
Yes. All right. Here's the last clip of Judge Carol Erskine.
Was John O'Keefe.
How does it do that?
Oh, what time is it for you?
8:17. We got time. This will be
Okay.
fine if we get through this. And well, now you got to see the tinfoil hat of the day.
Was John O'Keefe, hit by a car? I don't comment on the evidence. I left that, as everybody knows, any post that I made, I said, this is up to the jury. I'm never going to comment, even though people ask me, do you think guilty or not guilty? But the notion that those experts, Dr. Welcher and Mr. Burgess, could actually give an opinion as to what caused the injuries, that the ultimate injuries were caused on John O'Keefe. That's one of the ultimate issues.
And this is the problem of what Ann Taylor is asking for in the expert disclosure. Are these experts, like Dr. Christian Westring, going to draw a specific conclusion to what happened to these people, to these victims? Is he going to draw a conclusion? Are any of these experts drawing a specific conclusion? And they're not saying. In the expert disclosures, from what we know, Ann Taylor isn't happy with them because she says they're vague, boilerplate language, random CV, non-tent. And so she's saying, we need to know, are these experts drawing any specific conclusions? Because if a judge is allowing these conclusions to be drawn, that's completely egregious. And there's no way fucking possible that they can know this and draw these conclusions based on the evidence that we have in this case.
Well said. I mean, yeah, there's no way to figure it out, essentially.
Right. Like they shouldn't be doing that, and they shouldn't be allowed to draw those conclusions, especially if you were overturned for your own methodology.
It's crazy, dude. It's so crazy.
Yet you have these two doctors who did a great job, and it came across, in terms of what the ultimate issue was. But when you compare the two side by side, you have to ask, was it consistency? Was it fair? Or as you say, was it consistent across the board, consistent with the law? And that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, and when you come to making these decisions and you're trying to be consistent and you're looking at it, and regardless of what you and I can say about Dr. Russell and La Posada, it seems so very obvious. Some people that maybe haven't seen a lot of trials, haven't searched for experts, haven't interviewed and hired experts, haven't declared people experts like you have. Maybe it's not as obvious to them how different these experts are and how top echelon these experts are, but it seems so obvious to those of us that have done this for a living and are still doing this for a living. Not only did Judge Cannone rubber stamp the less qualified experts and require voir dire of the more qualified experts, but she also went further. And you've written orders before, and in your orders, have you ever used the language Judge Cannone used to say, this is a close call, and here are 5 issues that the Commonwealth could use to cross-examine Dr. Russell where I think she's pretty weak? Have you ever done things like that in an order?
I was stunned by that. And no,
Yeah.
I've never done anything like that.
It's wild.
And the fact is, the reasoning behind it being close, it was just amazing to me. And again, compare it to Burgess. I mean, was it even close that he was qualified when his resume on Aperture was a lie? I mean, it's absolutely stunning. But did you even have a voir dire? No, what you had was, again, a robust cross-examination, which is allowed for the defense to do on every witness. And that was sort of the excuse. Well, I'm going to allow a robust cross-examination. I'm thinking to myself, what does that mean? Like, that's not something that I could picture myself saying, because every defense person is allowed a robust cross-examination.
And it's not
And
one of
so-
the, it's not one of the listed remedies. A listed remedy is you strike the
Put it
witness,
off.
you limit the witness.
This is the judge in the Karen Reed case said the remedy for allowing this BS of an unqualified expert who lied about going to college, for Christ's sake. She said you could have a robust cross. That's a part of her Sixth Amendment right without this BS. Why would that's not a remedy? That's just what she should be allowed. So what are you saying? You didn't allow a robust cross for this entire trial? I mean, like it was so crazy to me. But what I think for the Kohberger case, I want to know, where are the voir dires for these experts? Because if she's getting some vague CV from these experts and she's not happy with the disclosures, as we've seen, and the motions going back and forth, right? Why is the judge not ordering a voir dire of Dr. Christian Westring? Why aren't we getting a voir dire from Agent Nicholas Balance? You know what he said about Agent Nicholas Balance? You can ask him a quick voir dire. He said, quick. This is a death penalty case, to ask if he did A, B, and C right before she gets to cross him.
Yeah, exactly. We actually read that on the stream the other night, and I said something about that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I understand that it's a lot.
No. That's not a
It's like,
remedy.
yeah.
She should be allowed to do that. He's an expert, right?
Yep. And when this lady goes, I was laughing in my head when she, wait, Sammy, use your voice and say, I was shocked. Do your like,
I was shocked.
and now
I was shocked.
and the translation of that is she was probably thinking, that is the stupidest shit that I've ever heard, is probably what she really meant.
I know. I love her. Like, you know, the book Brave New World. It's such a good book, but it sounds like she like took some Soma, because that's the drug in the book Brave New World. Like, I want to be on the Soma when I'm on podcasts. Like, Soma me up.
Well, as I said tonight, we had to not get through this. This was a perfect amount of clips to show relevance, and I'm glad that it's still tied into the alt perp being turned down and how the Sixth Amendment.
This actually was I know I'm disappointed, but all things considered, this tied in quite nicely.
It did.
And I am happy to do the research and illuminate these issues, because they're very important. And we need the activism that we had for Karen Reed, for Brian Kohberger. We need to get Turtle Boy involved. We need to get the law tubers involved. We need to start sounding the alarm that much louder. I want guillotine shirts made. King Hippler.
That's his new name from now on when we refer to him on the stream, Hive. King Hippler.
That's right.
All right. So tinfoil hat conspiracy today. Usually I'll have like an AI graphic up here and something. I'm going to let these videos kind of speak for themselves. I'll play this one first.
Ooh. Is that the moon?
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Come on, dude. Why is this?
I'm
not letting me-
obsessed with the moon landing conspiracy, because it's such a BS. Like, I laugh at the fact that we landed on the moon like maybe once a week.
Right? Now we just lost that technology. Watch this thing. Do you guys see that? It'll zoom
What?
in.
The hell?
Watch this.
That's not a. Does a shooting star shoot
No.
horizontally out of the moon?
No, look at that.
Do that again.
And well, wait till
Okay.
you see this one. This is the one that I've been I've been really excited to show. So I'll make this as big as I can for this. Okay, watch this one here.
Okay.
See that crater?
What?
Yes. Now people could say, "Oh, it's fake." No, hell no. I think there's people living on the moon.
Way.
Yeah. Now, just wait, guys. Watch this. Zoom. I don't know why it went to Switzerland women, but again, it's pretty mind blowing, isn't it? That comes out of the crater, everybody. People have been filming this crater.
And what are we supposed to do with this?
I don't know.
So if we didn't land on the moon in that, you know, basically looks like a homeless encampment on the side of Portland.
Wait, what if one day
it's like we look like we landed in a fucking trailer that you could find on the side of the fucking highway in Portland with a meth head coming out of it? You know,
if a psyop
like
one day?
So like what is coming out of that crater?
I think it's a craft. I don't know, but it's like, what if a psyop was like they cleaned up all of the cities with like the encampments and everything as fast as they could? It's like, wow, what happened? 10 years later, a video leaks, somebody flies the drone in, they're all on the moon. That'd be insane.
Oh, jeez. It's so weird too, because it's like, it looks like it's like almost like testing, like what's
Like a
out here
balloon.
first.
Yeah.
Like, let's look and then we take off. Kind of like an airplane. Like, you know how it, you know, when it takes off, it starts slow and then like.
Dude, you were talking about the moon landings.
Oh
I
my
watched
God.
a video that talked about how pretty much a lot of the first rockets that were launched, it was pretty much just like pyrotechnics on the bottom, right? Like loudspeakers, a bunch of flames shooting out. But if you look at the speed, it floats up like a giant balloon. Have you seen that?
No, but I have seen the ones where they like look like they're going up and then they curve.
Does
you
anybody?
Know, like it's like they can't go
Oh
further.
yeah, they hit the firmament.
Yeah.
And I mean, Elon Musk showed the world he put a rocket right through that.
Yes, he did.
And that's what that is. And I've always said too, it looks like something.
Look at that Gail King and Katy Perry and that.
You mean John Benet Ramsey,
whole
not Katy
debacle.
Perry.
Jesus Christ. And Gail King wants respect. I'd spit on her at fucking Jeff Bezos' wedding this week. What a joke. Her and Katy Perry. Disgusting. Oh, I'm an astronaut now. Are you?
Call me an astronaut. Say it. Say I'm an astronaut.
You know, we're doing something. It's life-changing. Yeah, we can all change our lives with that money. Don't worry. We just don't have it.
We just have to sell our soul to the devil. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
No.
I'll just keep doing this show and
yes.
Not look like a hobgoblin in a couple years.
That was a perfect tie back. Oh, well, Hive, thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, I know it's a little bit shorter by about 20 minutes, but that podcast, this is the screen. If you guys are interested in tuning in, it's much different than this one. I think this one's a little bit more rowdy. I don't know what to expect, to be honest, but I know that I'm going on there. They had watched the interview with Will. So,
I'm going to watch it. I'm excited. By the way, congratulations on that interview. You and Phoenix killed it. You were so methodical, so detailed. You gave him the space to say what he wanted to say. It didn't feel pushy. It felt super informative. It gave a lot of exposition that I think was needed. And in the cadence that he wanted to deliver that, which I thought was so respectful and genuine. And so for anybody on YouTube, I want to call her Laundromat Queen. Just these people who say that this person isn't real and wants their what is it called, motocross records to prove it. Thank you, Jimmy Page.
Yeah, it was like I said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I feel like this chat, it was built on that. So I wasn't trying to be hypocritical, but I'm like, at a certain point, like, is it a different opinion? Or are you just trying to prove something that might not be? It was just surprising. I was just very surprised.
No, people are mentally ill. I mean, after Karen Reed got freed, the trolls like Jennifer Coffin doofus, she just couldn't. She immediately went to, it has to be a biased jury. Somebody had to have gotten on. They should have had this in Boston. I've been saying, like, they haven't heard of the Karen Reed trial in Boston, lady. I just was like, you're insane. You just went to, right before she said that too, she goes, we need to just respect the jury in the process. 2 seconds after the verdict delivered, she goes, there had to be somebody on that jury. I was dying. I'm like, who takes this woman seriously?
I love when people like do side-by-side clips like that, where it's like they're saying one thing, especially with like newscasters.
It was
literally
like, 2 minutes.
Yeah. I haven't seen that clip, but like one of the ones that I thought was so funny was like when Kamala Harris was like, how dare we say Merry Christmas? And then it cuts to a clip. She's like, Merry Christmas. Like that shit. I was like, whoever made that, I'm like, that's just fucking comment.
How
like,
dare
comedy.
we say Merry Christmas?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh man. Well, Sammy, thank you so much. Where can people find you on TikTok? Is it at Sammy T Mafia?
At Sammy T Mafia. I'm on TikTok. And people have been asking, do I have my own channel? No. But Birdie and I are working something out. And I love doing these Thursday shows. They just fill my soul with happiness. And they are not turning me into a hobgoblin. In fact, I'm becoming a fairy princess in about half an hour. So I'll see you guys later.
I love it. And I always enjoy Thursday nights as well. Hive, you guys rock. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And anybody that left a comment under the video with Will or on the other creators, thank you for that too. And the support for him. I sent him Harsh Realities and Jam Breeze videos. And he was like, to be honest, I have not gone back on since he left his comment. So he was like, thanks for sending me this. So I don't know. He was obviously talking to me much more prior to the interview, and I haven't really heard much. So
it's a lot to be. He is essentially putting himself out there on the ledge. He's on the plank as, oh, thanks, Lenny. You're so pretty. Is that how you say your name? Lenny? Lenny. Okay, she's pretty.
Well, with that all being said, like I said, Hive, I hope everyone has a good night. Sammy, I'll see you next Thursday. Or is next Thursday the 4th? You and I might have to.
Well, let's work around. We'll figure it out.
Or Tuesday or something. We'll figure it out. But all right. I will be back on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. I'll have Phoenix up here. And then also I'm doing the Devil's Advocates show, which is after dark, where he described it as he just drinks and drops F-bombs, and he invited me onto his show. So I'm like, cool. So I'm going to get the info on how to join that.
You know what? I bet you if that guy does that, he gets mad props. When I do that, I get called a filthy trash mouth. Like
it's like the opposite of Brian Koberg. It's like if it's a man, it's a woman. It's like
it's so true. You know?
Well, you two would.
I'm working on it, guys.
Yes. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, Sammy.
Bye.
Cheers, Hive.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.